Resentment doesn't start loud. It starts in what kept happening. And the hard part is, it doesn't feel like a big deal in the beginning. It feels small, almost easy to overlook. It's the little things. Things you let go. Things you brush off. Things you tell yourself, it's not that serious. I don't want to make a big deal out of this. I'll just let it go. And in that moment, you're not trying to build resentment. You're trying to keep peace. You're trying to be understanding. You're trying to not turn every little thing into a problem. So you let it go. And then it happens again. Maybe in a slightly different way. Maybe in a different moment. But it feels familiar. And again, you let it go. Because it still doesn't feel big enough. Still doesn't feel important enough. Still doesn't feel like something worth disrupting everything over. So you keep moving. You keep showing up. You keep handling things the way you always have. And on the outside, nothing looks wrong. Nothing looks broken. Everything still appears to be functioning, but inside, something has started. Something small, something quiet, something easy to ignore at first. But what people don't always realize is it kept happening. And what keeps happening does something to you. Even if you don't say anything about it. Even if you don't fully process it right away. Even if you keep telling yourself it's fine. Because over time, what you kept letting go starts building up. Not all at once, not dramatically, but steadily. Because resentment isn't about one moment. It's about the pattern. It's about what kept happening without being addressed. You can handle one moment. You can move past one situation. You can recover from one misunderstanding. But when something becomes a pattern, your emotions start responding to that pattern. You start anticipating it. You start noticing it quicker. You start feeling it sooner. And now, it doesn't feel like just a small thing anymore. It feels like something that keeps happening. Something that keeps landing the same way. Something that keeps leaving the same feeling behind. And that feeling starts to stay with you. Not just in the moment, but after the moment is over. And once a feeling starts staying, it starts shaping how you experience things, even before anything new happens. And this is where the shift begins to show up. Not always in a loud way, but in a real way. You become quieter, more guarded, more aware. You start thinking before you speak. You start deciding what's worth bringing up and what's not. You start holding things in that you would have once said freely, not because you stopped caring, but because something kept happening that was never dealt with. And over time, that changes how you show up. Because now you're not just responding to one moment. You're responding to the pattern behind it. You're responding to how it has felt over and over again. And that's what people don't always see. Because from the outside, it can look like a change in attitude, a change in behavior, a change in energy. But on the inside, it's a response to what kept happening, a response to what was never addressed, a response to what was repeatedly felt but never fully spoken. And that's usually where resentment begins, not in one big moment, but in what kept happening. And this is where it can change, not by ignoring it, not by pretending it's not there, but by becoming aware of it. Because once something is seen, it can be addressed. And that doesn't always mean a big conversation. It doesn't always mean confrontation. Sometimes it starts with recognition, being honest with yourself about what has been building, being honest about what no longer feels the same, and then being willing to say it in a way that protects the relationship, not attacks it. Because the goal is not to prove a point. The goal is to protect the connection. And this goes both ways. Because sometimes one person has been carrying something without saying it, and the other person may not even realize it has been building. Not because they don't care, but because it was never fully brought into the light. And that's why awareness matters. Because when something is finally named, it gives both people a chance to understand it, to adjust, to respond differently, to start seeing each other again in the places that were missed. Because most of the time, people are not trying to hurt each other. They are just moving through patterns they haven't stopped to look at. And when those patterns are finally seen, they can be changed. They can be softened. They can be handled with more care. Because long relationships are not protected by perfection. They are protected by awareness, by communication, by being willing to notice what has shifted before it turns into something deeper. Because resentment doesn't have to stay. It can be addressed. It can be understood. It can be worked through. But only when it is no longer ignored. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do for a relationship is to stop letting things quietly build and start bringing them into the light with care.